Alright, so in this video we want to discuss a couple other things that deal with selection statements. Those are Boolean variables, the and or statements, your logical operators that allow you to compare more than one condition at once, and then the not and in operators as well to kind of help us determine if elements are members of sequences. Boolean variables are really easy to work with. All it is a variable that's set to either true or false. So I might have something like game over, okay, equal to false, okay? The syntax for true and false for Boolean variables are capital F or capital T for that. And then I can easily print this out, print game over, and you'll see that it is exactly what it says it is, and it can work based on it. Now, obviously printing it out is not the way we want to go with it, but you might have something like if game over, okay? And let's just set this to true to begin with so that we can see what happens. And then I could say print the game is over. Okay, so you'll see that we can use that within a selection statement, and there is no relational operator here. There's no equal signs, there's no not equal signs, there's no greater thans or less thans. It's just simply the statement if game over. Or I might say while game over when we start talking about loops in the next chapter, or while not game over, depending on the way that you want to go about building whatever your logic may be. So it's a really nice way to kind of keep things, the vocabulary that you use within your code to be more meaningful to the programmer and just as meaningful to the program, utilizing Boolean variables for yourself. So a Boolean variable is nothing more than a variable that's set to either true or false, and then you can do whatever it is you want to do with it in the context of anything that would allow for a true-false value. So if game over, if not game over, and things of that nature. So that's really simple and easy to work with. Okay. The and or statements are a way to combine multiple conditions together to get you to a certain point in your program. This is different than mutually exclusive events. This would be a way for you to write conditions that deal with two independent events, two different things that happen, and you want to check to make sure both of them are in a given level or given a certain criteria to do something in your program or not do something in your program. So let's go back to the whole SAT example, and let's do a quick input statement for the SAT score. Oops. Enter your SAT score. And I'm also going to do one for a GPA. We'll do float input. Enter your GPA from, say, high school or whatever it is. So now these two scores are independent of one another. Your SAT score has nothing to do necessarily with your GPA, and your GPA has nothing to do with your SAT score, per se. But what I want to do is allow you to be accepted, or whatever it is, into this college or university based upon both scores. So there's a way for us to kind of work with that and see how we want to deal with certain things. So let's say I wanted to say, okay, let's say I get into this university with scholarship if my GPA and SAT score are certain values. So I might say something like this. So I'm going to say if my SAT score is greater than or equal to 1100 and my GPA is greater than 2.5, okay, or let's go 3.0, okay, then I've been accepted. You're accepted to college. Something very blank and very simple. Else, print, you need to raise your SAT or GPA. Okay, so very basic, not like we'd ever really code something like this, but you get the idea. So if I run this and I run enter your SAT score, let's say I type in 1400 and a GPA of 3.6, it says I've been accepted to college. And the reason is because both of these conditions are true. The AND operator works in a way that allows you to judge one condition and another one, and as long as both conditions to the left and right of the AND operator are true, then the overall resulting equation is true. Notice what happens if I run this and I don't make one of those two logical statements. Let's say my SAT score was just 950. Okay, I had a bad test day, but my GPA is a 4.0. It says I need to raise my SAT or GPA. Why? Because my SAT score wasn't enough. And to be perfectly honest with you, it never even bothered to check my GPA because it already knew the overall expression was going to be false based upon this. And that's another way that you can organize this, is that when you work with these AND statements, since both of them have to be true for the resulting expression to be true, if the first one comes out false, the second one's not even checked by the interpreter. It doesn't even bother to look at it. So keeping these things organized in one way or another is very helpful. You'll also notice that if I score well enough on the SAT, but my GPA is like a 2.9, then I obviously need to raise one or the other. So it would be nice to figure out which one I might need to raise in order to do that, or whatever it may be, or maybe I have some other conditions. But let's just change this to an OR symbol as well. And now what you'll notice is that I don't need both conditions to be true. I just need one or the other to be true in order for the resulting expression to be true. So let's go ahead and run this here, and we'll type in 1450. And we'll type in a 3.6 GPA. And obviously I'm accepted to college because I've made the SAT score and I made the GPA. Well, let's try it again where I don't make one of the two. Let's say I don't make the GPA. I'm 1450, but my GPA is a 2.29. Okay? It's still going to say I'm accepted to college because my SAT score was good enough to get in, and the resulting GPA was not even looked at. It was never actually even checked because a true or anything is always going to result in a true expression. If I were to reverse this and not make the college score, let's say it was 950, but I made the GPA 3.5, I still get accepted because, again, false or true makes true overall, and I'm able to get in. The only way for this to come out false, period, is to not make both criteria. Oops. Is to miss both criteria. Let's put that back the way we want it. So we want 950 here, and let's say it was a 2.9 here. So I need to raise my SAT or my GPA in order to get in order to make that work. So that's another way that you can use the ands and ors to kind of deal with not mutually exclusive events. That's different. That's what we talked about in the previous video with the grades, where it's one score with different various outcomes. But here I have two totally different scores or independent events that I can check both conditions on in one statement to make myself and know that this is going to work appropriately. So use those ands and ors appropriately as you work your way through. Now the only other thing that we want to talk about is the not and in operators. We'll talk about the in operator first. The in operator is a way for us to check to see if an element is a member of a sequence. Now we haven't talked about sequences yet, but sequences are collections of items that can be iterated through and things of that nature, which we'll talk about in the next chapter a little bit more in detail. But we do have one type of sequence that we have seen so far in this course, and that is a string. A string is a sequence of characters. And so, for instance, if I had an expression that said something like, if the letter E is in hello, okay, this should return true it'll say that the letter E is in the message because E is a member of the sequence. And otherwise it would say it wasn't. Let's say we'll do an else here, print E is not in the sequence. Okay, so I could do something like cat, and you'll notice that it doesn't have the E in there because it's not in the sequence. So the in operator is a nice operator to not check for equality, but to check membership. And that's essentially how I like to explain it. As long as you have a sequence over here, a collection of items that can be passed through, a string is a collection or sequence of characters, this in operator can help you determine if the element on the left is a member of the sequence on the right. And it doesn't have to be just one letter or anything like that. Let's go back to hello. Let's see if I just want to see if double L is in there, okay? The letters are in the message. Okay, so now I can see that LL is in the message as it works its way through. If I did like LE, okay, you're going to notice it comes out false. Yes, L and E are not in the are both in the message, but they're not in there in the correct order. So it is specifically checking to see if this piece, what you have here, is an element within here. And since we can't find it sequentially within that string, we won't have it. So there's kind of your in operator. Now, if you compound that with a not, okay, for instance, I could say not in. The not is simply a negation operator, okay? Okay. All the not is going to do is check to see if something is not a member of the sequence. You can use the negation operator in lots of different contexts. You'll find them out as you kind of see where you're going with a lot of things in the course. But for now, it's just to help us negate kind of the in operator that we want to work with. So if E is not in hello, it'll say E is not in the, or it would say E is not in the message. Essentially, we want to flip-flop these. So let's bring that up here and move this down. Okay, and that will make more sense. So E is in the message because this came out false, but if I change this to cat, you'll notice that it'll say E is not in the message because E is not in CAT. So again, the not operator is a nice negation operator to help you work in conjunction with that in operator to kind of see if an element is a member of a sequence as you work your way through. So it kind of hits the finer details of Chapter 3 there, talking about selection statements, relational operators, logical operators, and some of your Boolean operators as you work your way through. Please make sure that you read the chapter as well if you haven't done so already. These were just some of the finer details to kind of get you through. In the next series of videos for the next chapter, we'll talk about looping techniques.